Welcome, my friends. Hello, hello, and welcome to Enlighten, where we talk about creative consecration to Christ. It's so wonderful to be with you here today on this beautiful Wednesday. And we will be talking about the Constitution today, which I'm so excited to have you as part of this discussion. Good morning. I hope you had a wonderful and amazing 4th of July. And this is why we continue this whole month. It's going to be a month of freedom because Jesus sets us free. And our land, America, was founded upon these principles of freedom and moral agency. And so we're going to keep talking about freedom. We're going to keep talking about the importance of containing and defending and standing up for that freedom today. So super excited to have you all here, and please feel free to comment and share anything you would like. I'm gonna grab my cute friend. He's wonderful and so amazing. This is gonna be fun. And okay, hello, hi James.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Awesome. Fantastic. I was just telling everyone we just keep celebrating America because the one day is not enough.
That's absolutely
So
correct.
we just keep going. Our as a matter of introduction from me, and then you could please introduce yourself after. That would be so fun for people to get to know you. But our kids served their missions together in Denmark. So it was pretty amazing to meet your daughter. I just love her so very much. Like I instantly was like, we could just we could know like sparks, like there was so much light back and forth, and I'm like, can I just take you home with me? You're just so cute and adorable. She just loved America so much, and we just instantly connected. So what a great patriot, honestly. You have raised her so well.
I've just been along on the journey. She is amazing, and I've just been lucky to be able to witness it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we just kept talking. We even talked about her wedding. She's like, one day it's all going to be patriotic. We're going to have red, white, and blue, baby. So I was
Yeah,
like,
we were
yes.
just discussing how to incorporate the fireworks and things of that nature. So yeah,
Oh, I love it. I love seeing the youth being so passionate and excited about living in America and the beacon of light that America is to other countries. I mean, our kids both served, my son London and your daughter both served in Denmark, and so it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to share the light for the whole world. It really is a beacon of light and freedom in the world. So just incredible. Could you please share with everyone in here a little bit about yourself and what you're doing? Um,
absolutely. My name is James Jones. I am a criminal court judge here in Memphis, Tennessee. I was elected to this position back in August 2022. So I am in the middle of my 8-year term and will be back up for election in 2030. So that is what I do. I handle essentially all felony cases, anything that can carry time in prison for more than 1 year up to the death penalty. And so we handle the worst of the worst type cases. And so it is something new and exciting every day.
yeah.
You
Oh
know,
my goodness. I love that they have such a good person in that court. I
I
just
appreciate that.
think it's so important to have honest and wise and good men. Doctrine and Covenants 98 verse 10. That actually President Oaks was referring to that in his talk. And I was like, I just read it seconds before I came on live because it was one of his footnotes in his talk. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think you definitely you are that. And I think it's so important for us to elect people that would be wise and honest and good to defend the Constitution and to stand for righteousness. So
I
thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you for all you're doing, honestly.
Thank
This
you.
is just so exciting. So where would you like to start? I have the art. I haven't shown it yet, but this is the art we're gonna talk a little bit about as well today. And maybe we can start with the art. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. I just, as we can all see here, this is the Constitution of the United States of America. And I wanted something tangible because I'm like, I know we're supposed to hold on to freedom. So I'm like, what can I do? So my little input was like, I want to create a piece of art that can help me to visually see, hold on to the Constitution of the United States of America. And it's, as you could see, there's this big machine, right, that it's trying to destroy it. And of course, this could symbolize anything that is trying to seize the power and take it away from the Constitution and basically undermine the Constitution, right? So it could be institutions, technology, political machines, media, etc. Whatever we can put in that regard there, and the determination that we have is to hold on to our freedom. I actually even put some fireworks right here. You can see. I had to have those, and because of the symbol of light, and I love that idea that we have to do each our own part of standing and defending the Constitution in our lives.
That's a beautiful piece of art as well. And as we were talking about as we were preparing for this, I've always admired people with artistic ability. I am not blessed with that talent at all. I'm lucky to draw a stick figure, appropriately. But it is amazing when people can transfer the things that they want to say into things that people can see, and that is something that I've always admired from people that can, whether it's writing songs or drawing or painting or sculpturing, all of those things that are not just us speaking. I mean, I can tell you my feelings about the Constitution or tell people about my feelings on protecting rights, but being able to portray that in art has always been something that I've admired of people. So you have a
Oh,
wonderful talent.
it's God. It's all him. I tell you, it's all him. And it blows my mind how we each have our gifts, right? That we each have our own way of doing his work. And I am amazed. I actually was speaking at a fireside in Utah a few years back, and this darling lady, she came to me after the fireside, and she was a judge. And she came and she said, thank you for your words about creativity and our gifts. And it was just so darling. And I loved her. She's like, I never actually thought of me as a judge being a creative person. But it's true. I can't even read the title of her textbook. I even if I do, I have to read it over and over again, and I have to bring my dictionaries to understand what she's saying. So I write back at you, and that is the beautiful thing, that it is a gift that you can express yourself, that you can use very big words and intellect and able to understand and comprehend texts that are very difficult and long and tedious and da 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 da, and you can actually make them come alive. So we have many gifts, and we get to glorify God with them. So
Absolutely.
it is incredible. It is so amazing. So I was just thinking, I mean, Kate, did you have a chance to look at Galatians 5:1? I don't know if
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
any thought. What were some of your thoughts on that in about that scripture? It says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free.
So, I've always found it interesting, the term "stand fast." Like that's something that the scriptures use a lot as far as standing firm and standing fast. And that's one of the things that I've always looked into. indicates and implies that there's going to be resistance against us. It's not just a matter of us standing, it's a matter of us standing firm or standing fast, which tells us that there's going to be opposition. And we know that there's going to be oppositions in all things. But when we're talking about our freedom, there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be things that are attempting to take away those freedoms, which are going to require us to stand firm and to stand fast. And that can be a difficult thing at times. I mean, it's in our social climate, especially today, sometimes swimming upstream can be a very uncomfortable position when everybody else seems to be going in one direction, but you know what's right and you know what's true. To be that one person that doesn't want to go with the flow, that can be difficult, and that can be a scary thing. But when we talk about, standing firm and standing fast, and it tells us, for the freedom that Christ, has given us to set us free. He's obviously given, also blessed us, as we read in the scriptures and talk about this being the land of bounty and the land of promise. Now, I was reading in, Second Nephi, and it was talking about how, this land has been set apart for those purposes. And he's given us that. He's not just given us the spiritual freedom, but he's given us the opportunity to have the restored gospel in a land of freedom. And so those are things that we can't take for granted, and we have to realize and recognize that one day we are going to be called upon, and we need to be able to be standing firm and standing fast when that day comes.
Wow, that is so good. And it feels like it's a theme, repetitive, like even back in the Israelites, when we look through the whole Old Testament, New Testament, they always said this, they stood out, they were set apart, they were different than the rest of the world. And I think that theme is kind of continual in the way God is governing like our lives and helping us and guiding us and giving us those instructions. And I love what you said, that we must, even if like stand upstream almost, like, right, we have to, because it's holding on to what we know that is true. And I was thinking, I was actually talking to my husband, I'm like, well, this is interesting because not only is Jesus setting us free from something which was incredible, we know death and sin, I mean, just he's liberating us, but he's also setting us free for something. And
Right.
And I think those kind of go like stand fast and steadfast, right? Those admonitions I think are so important, so we can build up his kingdom, we can glorify him. And like you said, America is the one land that the restoration could happen thanks to the Constitution. It couldn't have been restored anywhere else.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really fully appreciate and understand. There's obviously a lot of great countries around the world, and there's a lot of countries that have a lot of freedoms and liberties, but a lot of those countries have such ingrained history that probably would have prevented the gospel from being restored fully the way that it has been here. Being able to almost essentially start from scratch and be able to build the foundation upon, Christ-like principles. Those are things that wouldn't have been afforded even in other great countries. And so this was a specifically selected place for the restoration to take place.
I am so amazed because as I've been studying, I love to study. I actually have my pocket size of the Constitution. I think it's the fact that I was prevented from having one growing up in a communist country, that I never could own a real copy of the Constitution like this, and so I'm always trying to ponder words and just things that just jump out at you, like the scriptures, similar to, because it's divinely inspired document. And I'm like, as I was studying and thinking about it, you said it was started from scratch, and it's so true. Like, I mean, we have the Declaration of Independence written 11 years after is the Constitution written? Took 4 months, and it's from scratch, right? They were gathered in the Constitutional Convention to fix up the Articles of Confederation. They weren't even planning on doing it. Well, three of them kind of had the idea they wanted to, but not for the majority of the delegates didn't even think that that's what they're going to be doing. And it was such a miraculous moment in our history that it even happened against all odds. Like,
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've, just the excitement that you have with regard to the Constitution is, I think, one of the things that folks that have been born here in the United States sometimes take for granted. We don't fully appreciate and understand a world where religious freedoms, or just freedoms in general, are as precious as folks in other countries that have been denied those opportunities. And so I think a lot of people here outside of their government and civics class don't ever really go back and see what the Constitution is talking about. And so in order for us to truly appreciate it, and it's just like the gospel, in order for us to truly appreciate it, we have to revisit it. We have to go back and see what it says, see what protections have been given to us, see why so many people died fighting for those freedoms. And until we take that time and grow a relationship with those freedoms and those rights, we're denying ourselves the opportunity to have that same excitement and that same joy and respect for that Constitution like you have.
that is so true. And we'd love to hear, maybe if you want to share in the comments, what are some of the freedoms you're so grateful for here in America? That would be fun to see. What are some of the ideas of people? But yeah, like you're saying, James, I literally, my dad had a beat up copy of the US Constitution, black marketed. You couldn't just go out and buy it. I mean, you couldn't even check it out at the library. It was not available when the Communist Party came into power in Bulgaria. Like, history was rewritten, and it was nothing about America was available, and it was all these lies in the newspapers and all these things that the propaganda was saying to us behind the Iron Curtain, to these countries. And it was so difficult. I'm just grateful for my parents that they were like, no, America is good. America is a wonderful land. It is the one place that freedom is real, and dreams do come true if you work hard, and there's possibility. And they just kept instilling this love for America, in my heart and soul since I was a very young kid. And I just remember how the Xerox copy of that Constitution that I was trying to translate with my little, actually big dictionary. And I was like, wow, what is it? What is it in this American document? What is it about it that sets us free? Like, what's in there in these inspired words that actually make us free, to the extent that it's literally the greatest level of individual liberty ever in the history of the world. And it's just incredible.
Well, and I think that it goes to show the influence that Heavenly Father had in the creation of that document. I mean, anybody can put words on a piece of paper, but when those words carry that extra oomph with it and create the fire inside that people are willing to fight for, and not only willing to fight for, but to have that document be preserved in the way that it is for the last couple hundred years, that shows that it was divinely inspired as it was going about. It wasn't just a group of men throwing some thoughts together and seeing what would stick or what would sound good. It was a matter of folks following the impressions of the Spirit and having the forethought to put them down on a document, that be something that they all signed off on. So I think that it's powerful to think of how many nudges along the way, Heavenly Father helped and put in as far as the Constitution coming into play.
That is so true. Oh my gosh. I know. I remember the first time I was in DC and I was doing the whole tour of the mall and the museums and then seeing just walking into the place where the document was. I just could not hold my joy, my tears of just like gratitude that it exists. And the flag, seeing the flag as well. And I think it's just so beautiful to witness this document that guided 4 million, right? There were about 4 million when it first started our country, our nation. And mostly coming from England and European people in residing in those 13 colonies. And then to see the same document, you have 300 million people from all over the world coming to America. And it's still that same document that God established. I'm just going to read this verse because it's like one of my favorite ever. And it says, and President Oaks shared that in his talk. But it's just to think only God's hand, only his establishment of that constitution in our land could be able to do this because people are faithful to him and people love him. And that document has preserved our nation and has helped us and kept it as a beacon to all other nations. And I love in Doctrine and Covenants 101, verse 77. I mean, the whole section is incredibly inspiring, but verse 77 is like so beautiful because we hear God telling us about the Constitution. And it says, according to the law and constitution of the people which I have suffered to be established, suffered aloud, right? Which I have suffered to be established and should be maintained for the rights and protection of all flesh, according to just and holy principles. I mean, and we can keep going on. The whole section is just powerful, but just hearing that God saying, I allowed this. This is my work for the protection of all flesh, not just in the United States, right? This is for all flesh worldwide. And I love in the comments, we had someone mention the freedom of, that we had the fast for the religious liberty this last Sunday. Have we ever had one like this? I was just thinking about that. Have we ever had a fast for worldwide fast for religious freedom?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of those, when we have these type of experiences, I think that it kind of goes to show exactly what that standing fast means and that standing firm. We're at a point where the prophet and the apostles are feeling the need that we have to come together and have a fast. I mean, that to me is very telling of the climate of our social, communities and where we are as far as freedoms and as far as what is going on throughout the world. That's something to the extent of having to do a worldwide fast. That's pretty telling.
We have a lot of standing for to do, standing fast, standing for and defending. So, I mean, how can we do this? What are some of the ideas and maybe some of your favorite things about the Constitution that you've studied it your whole life, and like what can you teach us and share with us about the Constitution that is so wonderful, and also something that we can also do like in our lives to stand up and defend it and uphold it?
So I think one of the things is to recognize that it is a large document, and for someone to try to take on the Constitution from one day to the next can be a daunting task. So the thing that I would first say as far as learning to appreciate the Constitution is just becoming familiar with it and doing it in small tidbits. You don't have to necessarily read and memorize the entire Constitution, but if you were to just look over the Bill of Rights and look over those amendments that we've seen some of the folks in the comments talk about as far as the freedom of religion and the freedom of assembly and things of that, and just learn what those mean and become more familiar with those. And as you learn what those mean and become familiar with them, learn about some of the other amendments and become familiar with those. The one thing that I try to get people to realize when they come into my courtroom is that there are constitutional rights that govern what we do in our courts, but it's not just for the defendants that are accused of the offenses, but it's also for just any citizen to be able to participate in this process. Every day, every week we have jury trials. And when somebody's accused of an offense, they have a right to a trial of a jury of their peers. But the one thing that people don't realize is that as a citizen of the United States, you have a constitutional right to be able to participate as a juror in these trials. And that is a right that you all have as well. And so a lot of times people don't realize, they think that these rights are for a specific person, but these rights are for everyone to be able to enjoy and be able to participate. And so just becoming familiar with what they are. I mean, we obviously hear about the real popular ones, the Second Amendment and, the First Amendment, but there's so many more. And when we think about the Bill of Rights in and of itself, I mean, the whole point, and as we go through these amendments, is just to show and understand the men that created the Constitution weren't perfect men. They were men trying to do their best. And as they were going about and making the Constitution, there were things that needed to be adjusted. And those amendments have been put in there for those adjustments, whether it's, the abolishing of slavery or women's rights or things of that nature that a lot of people don't understand and fully appreciate. I mean, we're coming up on an election season, not too, far in the future, and we all go and exercise our rights to vote, and we don't really realize how much came into play for that to take place. It wasn't that long ago that women were not able to go exercise their right to vote. And yet a lot of people go and exercise their right to vote and don't realize the document and the effort that was put into place in order to grant that right to them. So for me, what I love about the Constitution is, as they say, I believe that the Constitution is a living document. It's intended for us to learn and to grow with, and as things need to be adjusted for our current climate, it can be adjusted where it needs to be adjusted in order to make sure that it's fully protecting what it was originally intended to protect. And so just becoming familiar with it and understanding it, learning and realizing that a lot of people pay the ultimate price, not only for the creation of the document, but for the preservation of the document and the right that it has afforded. And so if we think about, it in religious context, the sacrifice that the Savior made for each of us. And if we were not to read about it and we weren't to talk about it and we weren't to revisit it, I mean, that would really minimize what the sacrifice really was. But when we start learning about the agony that he suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane, we realize, all the pains that he took on for us, we were able to grow a greater appreciation for that sacrifice. And it's the same thing with the Constitution. When we start learning about the young folks. I mean, the people that fought for the Constitution. I mean, these weren't just old men. I mean, these were teenagers that were laying down their lives in thousands upon thousands in order to preserve the Constitution and fight for it and give us the freedoms that we enjoy today, that a lot of folks take for granted.
Wow. I love all of that advice. And it's so, I feel like in our society, it's become so easy to just watch a reel on what somebody else may think about the Constitution, or somebody else to teach you about it, instead of us taking the Constitution and reading it. It is, I have a book because I'm still learning English words, I've got long ways to go. So, but this book actually is helping also how to read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence by Paul Skousen. That's Cleon Skousen's son. That he wrote this book, and it's helped me tremendously to understand some of the language, because it's difficult, like you said. It's little by little. I love this. Like small things, great things are brought to pass, right?
Right. And like it says in the script, line upon line, precept upon precept. And that's how and because it can be daunting. But the one thing that I would say is there's really no excuse for us not to know it and understand it, because we have so many resources. The book that you're holding in your hand, for those that find it challenging for reading, there's all kinds of videos, there's all kinds of breakdowns, there's all kinds of analysis where people explain what the Constitution is. I mean, obviously you have to be careful of what sources, and you want a reliable sources and things of that nature. But, when you talk to people about the Constitution, there are so many ways and resources for us to learn about the Constitution, just like there is for us to learn about the gospel. There are so many different things that are provided for us to address any of our shortcomings and difficulties and understanding a very complicated document.
Yes, and the wisdom and the power that it contains in it is so incredible to me every day. Like, honestly, my kids growing up in our house, the First Amendment, we had someone in here mentioned in one of the comments, and she said the opportunity the First Amendment gives us. Let me see if I can go back and read it because it was so good. She said the power to disagree with the freedom to disagree with your government without fear of reprisal. That is huge. Like, that's the freedom of speech, right? Also, like, I can't even imagine growing up in communism and saying something against the prime minister and not getting punished for that. Like, and here you can just publish you can openly speak out, and it is an incredible freedom that anyone can say what they think. They can express their opinion, and the freedom of speech and of the assembly. I have it right here. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I mean, we can spend the whole hour just talking about amendment number 1, because it is so incredible that is a freedom, that the value of an individual, right? Like, everyone's opinion is valued. Like, you are a person, you have your God-given identity, and you have the right to express yourself. That is one of the things I believe growing up in communism, that I always was like, how could this even be possible?
Right.
How is that? How can, like, someone that is in charge of a country allow that? Because you're used to a tyrant, despot, a king, always those are their rules that they implement. And if you go against them, there's obviously consequences. But this is different because it's not their power.
And that is one of the things that I think we gravitate towards the First Amendment with the freedom of speech and freedom of religion and things of that nature. And one of the things that we have to realize and appreciate also is that it's a freedom of all speech and it's a freedom of all religion. And I can't remember who said it, but it was essentially saying that infringing upon one religion or infringing upon one type of speech is an infringement upon all types.
Yes.
And that is exactly, what we need to make sure that we understand and appreciate and protect. It's not just a protection of speech for those that are saying the things that we agree with.
Mm-hmm.
It's the protection of speech for those, even for those that we don't agree with. And it's the same with the laws, and it's the same with the other aspects of the Constitution. We take the Constitution as a whole, and we can't agree with part of it and disagree with part of it. We can't uphold and fight for part of it and not fight for the others, because it is in its entirety something that we are accepting. Now, obviously, there's ways of adjusting it. It's the same thing with our laws. I may not necessarily agree, and I explained to the jurors as we are going about a trial, you may not agree with the law as it's written, but until it's changed, this is the law that we have to follow. And so, with the Constitution, there's so many attacks on the Constitution for different parts of the amendment, but we have to understand and appreciate the Constitution for what it is right now. And we can't take some of it and try to disregard the other parts, So, but in order for us to even do that part, we have to know what it is. We have to know what it says. So we have to become familiar with it.
Yes. And it takes effort. It takes effort on our part to study it, to understand it. Someone mentioned on here, Hillsdale College. I actually love their classes. I've taken quite a few from them. They are so good. And the one on the Constitution is incredible. So definitely, they're all free classes you can take online. And that's one of incredibly great resource there. But it's true, educating ourselves, being passionate about it, and knowing what are we defending, what are we standing for, makes such a big difference. And I love that America has the 12, right? 12 jurors.
Yeah.
Is it
Yep.
12?
Well,
Yeah,
depending on the type of trial, you have, for our criminal cases here in Tennessee, we have a jury of 12 of your peers.
I remember the movie 12 Angry Men. So I took film in college and photography. Those are some of my classes, and I love that class. It was all about the 12 jurors, 12 angry men. It was so good. Like, it really made you realize things that at first glance you're like, oh, he's totally guilty, but it was like, wait a minute. So I love that anyone can be part of that it's part of the judicial system, and that was inspiringly made. They have the three separations of power too. That is just brilliant. That is brilliant that no one has really done it quite like that ever in the world. That is such an amazing, inspiring document, and that you have the three separations of power, that the government checks and balances, that no one can take away that power. It's so incredible. Seeing how it all developed. And we're talking 4 months. They did not have that much time. That 4 months, and in closed doors, they were giving their life literally for their lives and their freedoms and everything they owned and had, and their property and their families, to be able to sacrifice to make the Constitution what it is and to create it with God's help. And it is amazing to me that the idea of separating those three branches of power and checks and balances, that everyone's looking out.
Right. And that is where a lot of the other, when we talk about this being the perfect place for the restoration of the gospel or for the establishment of the Constitution or all of those things, that's the reason why it was able to work here. Because when you already have people in power, to go in and then say we're going to strip some of your power so we can give it to another branch of government, that sometimes is a very hard pill to swallow. And all of these other countries, as great as they may be, that would be what would ultimately have to take place, is to come in and say, look, we are going to take away some of your power and give it somewhere else. And that is not something a lot of people are going to sign up for. And so we needed to start fresh, and we needed to start with a clean slate to be able to establish those three pillars and to be able to give each one the power to put into check and balances the other forms of government, to make sure that everybody is working together and not working independently.
Wow, I think the timing of these miracles is incredible. I feel like it's almost God shows up in the fourth watch. You know, when Jesus is walking, the disciples are on the sea, and the storm is like going on, and it's crazy. And he kind of waits till the fourth watch. Like, it's pretty much at the end of all their abilities, earthly, humanly abilities, right? They're like, it is so hard right now. And he had seen him from up on top of the mountain. Jesus is like, okay, now is the time. This is the time I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come in the fourth watch. And then the miracle happened. Then the storm was calmed, and there was walking on water, and there was this realization that with him we can do life, and it's his power is what strengthens us. It's his inspiration and revelation in our lives that does that. And the story of the fog that the saved the Continental Army, I briefly talked about that last week. And again, that was the fourth watch. They weren't like that close to being completely extinguished, and like they would have been gone, and they wouldn't have been America in that sense. And yet God's like, no, I'm gonna help you. You're gonna escape the fog, the wind, the ferryman that is gonna move you on the river. They're gonna help with that. Fourth watch. And the writing of the Constitution is also, I feel like, a fourth watch. The timing of it is also happening in the moment where it had to, like, anytime later, we had the French Revolution, a lot of craziness happened. Some of the founding fathers and people involved as delegates, they started fighting with each other. I mean, there was a lot of opposition after that. Like, it's incredible to see how his hand is watching over us. And this document is such a testimony of that, and his timing for our nation. And this is the book I was telling you about. It's the 7 miracles that saved America. That's the Constitution is also one of them. And I just love seeing God's hand and his timing of that, because he, as in Doctrine and Covenants we are taught, he has established that Constitution in this document, like you said, only because of that First Amendment that could have happened here. And in other countries that would not have been allowed the same way. And to think, I love what Joseph Smith called it. It was a heavenly banner. I love that those are the words he used for the Constitution. That is, it's our heavenly banner in our lives. So I know we had President Oakes's talk defending our divinely inspired Constitution as a guide as well. Anything that stood out to you in it that maybe you wanted to share with us? As a judge, and I mean, President Oakes was a judge as well. So yeah. I love when he speaks with such knowledge and authority, right? Because he just knows this, and such love. It's all about love, because when he speaks, I need my dictionary many times as well. But it's very inspiring hearing it from him, because he knows what he's talking about so well.
You know, one of the things that I appreciated with the Don H. Oakes, President Oakes' talk, is how he breaks things down into little subcategories for us to better understand. You know, the understanding. Obviously, the Constitution is a big document. and it covers a lot. But there's the way that he broke those down into his 5 divinely inspired principles, which really help us understand the things that are important, and why, talking about the government powers that originate from the people, that the idea that we have a election process, and coming from someone who's run for office, that is a daunting task in and of itself, is running for office. But to understand, it could very easily be something where I am told that my community here in Memphis is told I am the judge, and that's it. But to have the people participate in that process, and to have them say, no, this is who I want to be the judge here, or this is who I want to be our mayor or governor or president, and that we get to participate in that process, is something that is really unique here. Also, the division of powers, like we talked about. Well, the division of powers between the national government and the state governments. Tennessee has its own way of doing things here, that's a little bit different than some of the other places in the country. And for us to be able to have that kind of individuality, but still be part of the collective, is a unique power. That, like we were just speaking of, the separation of powers and having the checks and balances. There's only so many things that I can do, even as a judge, because I can't infringe upon the other branches of government, and the other branches of government can infringe upon me and what I'm doing in the judicial part. So that is a unique aspect of the Constitution, just guaranteeing the individual rights. They're just not having the government decide in and of itself what the rights are that we are going to be able to enjoy, but to actually have these rights established, have these rights protected, and not having the government just dictate for us what we are going to be doing and how we're going to do it. And then just, the rule of law over individuals, just we have, we serve a higher power. We aren't just loyal to the president. We're not just loyal to our individual leaders, but we are upholding the Constitution, and we are upholding a much higher law. And all of those things, just understanding that that's what the Constitution is all about. It like I said, reading the Constitution, you might not be able to take all of these takeaways away just from reading it on your own, but to have President Oates break it down into these subcategories so that we can better understand it was one of the things that I really, appreciated from that talk.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. Like, honestly, for anyone that wanted to dig deeper, the talk, I had marked it so much. Like, I literally underlined every word he said. But because there's just so many wonderful things, and he talks about why the 5 things about the U.S. Constitution, how is it a divinely inspired document. And he actually tells us, I thought this was so neat. He said, so here's the question he said at the end. He said, what else are faithful Latter-day Saints to do? And you mentioned almost everything that he was talking about here as well. And I really like the idea here that we should seek out and support wise and good people who will support those principles in their public actions. And we started our conversation with that, which is so true. To study a little bit more about them, the information is usually in the websites of our towns and our cities, that you can read what these people that we're going to go vote for are standing for. And then we can just kind of decide, okay, I agree with this. I want to vote for this person. I mean, the whole idea of voting is incredible. You guys, I growing up in communism, there's no such thing. So it's what a privilege it is. And I always tell my kids, you know, when they're the age of voting, I'm like, you cannot sit home on that day. You must go and exercise your ability to vote. What a privilege, truly, that you can do this. And I love that he said he counseled us also to pray. He said we must pray for the Lord to guide and bless all nations and their leaders, which I think, and he said
Yeah.
this is part of our article of faith. And it is such a one. And you know, one thing I thought it was amazing in the Constitution too, that a lot of the delegates disagreed with each other. They were just so adamant about their position, and they're like, "No, it has to be done my way." To the point where that things weren't going to happen. It was not. The Constitution was so close to not happening, and yet there was prayer in their meetings. They started praying before every meeting. Ben Franklin was such a huge part of instituting that tradition, and I do firmly believe that God's hand softened their hearts because they came to a compromise. It wasn't so much of what they individually thought, but wait, what is actually better for our nation? And I love in the comments, one nation under God. And it's just so sweet to think about that they actually were giving up their own like ego and what they only themselves thought, well, this is what really has to be. But they thought of the nation, and that they thought of we must compromise here. We have to come so this nation will survive under God and his guidance. And I just remember that little detail of how the Declaration actually happened to be, and the Constitution, how they had to compromise to think for the welfare of the whole country.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that he also talks about is prioritizing the issues, you know, and according to your own personal inspiration, and understanding that, you know, the candidates that we have for office or the officials that we have, they're not going to be able to check every box. I mean, the reality of it is that, you know, they're limited in doing what they can do in some regard and others. So it's important that we know what the issues are, what issues are important to us. There was a quote by President Oaks that I liked, that I saw shared. It says, "Those who govern their thoughts and actions solely by the principles of liberalism or conservatism or intellectualism cannot be expected to agree with all the teachings of the gospel of Jesus Christ. As for me, I find some wisdom in liberalism, some wisdom in conservatism, and much truth in intellectualism, but I find no salvation in any of them." You know, and that just understanding, you know, the gospel, as we talked about before, we are serving a higher law, and that law may incorporate aspects of both sides, and different leadership and different principles. And so we just need to make sure we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as the old expression says, and that we look at the issues as a whole and not just disregard them just because one person said it versus another.
Yes, and I think that is so divinely inspired, because that you have to survive. You have, this nation must go on, and defending and standing for the truth that we know is this moral agency that we're given. And I love that in Fifth Sunday we talked so much about that. That was a big chunk of the conversation that we had, was the moral agency, because really it's, these laws are given us from God, and the government is acting upon protecting those laws and that those rights that God is giving us. They're not from the government, they're God's. The government's job is to protect those laws, right? And those rights that God's given us. And it's just so intertwined with defending like our faith and standing up for our faith and not letting people run over us, because it's our God that it's one nation under God. It's in God we trust. It's his work that is happening here and throughout the whole world. And it's kind of amazing realizing that. Like, it really makes you think, wow, like we're part of this grand work of the Lord right now in this final dispensation, and we're just building up the kingdom so he can come again. And he wants to come again and see that, see us as his children, standing fast and steadfast. Like, I think those two go so well together. We stand fast so we become steadfast in his cause, and defending his freedom and his truth in all the possible ways that we can, through our gifts, through our talents, through standing up and speaking up and defending the Constitution and reading about it, like you mentioned so beautifully. And it is such an amazing time to be alive, to be part of this great work happening, and this freedom of religion, and defending that beautiful opportunity that we have to have freedom of religion as well in our lives.
Yeah, and just understanding, the Constitution needs protection from everyone. We all have a duty to protect the Constitution and the rights that it affords each of us. The fact that we are here talking about the Constitution and the freedoms that it allows is a freedom that a lot of people are not able to do. They're not able to talk freely about the government, about the way that the government conducts its business. And we have a platform in which we can talk and we can have our views expressed. And the reality, where we started out with, talking about standing firm in the freedoms that Christ has given us. That ultimately is what it boils down to. And that's exactly right. We have a duty to preserve, the Constitution and the principles that are within it. And there was another quote that President Oaks said that I appreciate. It says, "Man's laws cannot make moral what God has declared immoral." And that's where the standing fast and the freedoms that Christ has given us, comes into play. We have an obligation and a duty to stand firm in the laws that God has given us. And we have a duty, to understand what those laws are and to speak up in preservation and protection of those. And those laws, a lot of those laws are specifically, stated in the Constitution. And the Constitution, just like our, religious freedoms, are under attack. Folks are attempting to limit what we are able to do and what we're able to say. And we need to make sure that we do not allow it, even if it's like we talked about before, even if it's an attempt to limit somebody else's speech. We need to fight just as hard for the protection of that speech, because if we allow their speech to be taken, it's only a matter of time before they come and try to take ours and use that as the precedence for why our speech should be taken as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. No, truly, I just think, like, I was waking up this morning and thinking, oh my gosh, is this really happening? We're actually going to go all live. I mean, little would I ever imagine this, growing up in communism under oppression and darkness, and so many heartaches and so many difficult things have happened to my family, and persecution from the communist regime, and so many awful things they have done to my family, and without a single word of explanation, because we were against what they taught. And I was just thinking, wow, we're in America. We get to say what we think. We get to praise God. I get to talk to a judge. And it's just amazing. And listen to these beautiful comments and read the comments. It's just, I am just blown away of the goodness of our God, that he is so good. He is so good and all powerful, and how grateful truly that we've had this opportunity. Thank you for your time and everyone's comments on here. And the fact that we can stand and share how much we love the Constitution, we love God and Jesus Christ, and we want to defend it and live for it with our lives and wait for his return. It's just pretty incredible that it's possible that we could do that. So thanks for pointing that out, because that's been on my heart all morning. I'm like, wow, this is America. You can do this here. And it's just wonderful. We can each do it in our own part of the world, wherever we are, whoever's watching, wherever you are. You can stand up for religious freedom. You can defend that. You can express your own opinion. This is America. And you can say how much it means to you and how essential it is for you and your household. And it's powerful how much we love our God and how grateful we are for this nation that's established upon his laws. So thank you so much,
Thank
Judge
you
James
so much.
Jones, for being with us today and for your wisdom and
Absolutely. You know,
everything you shared.
I think of all of the, uh, as we call them, those tender mercies of being able for our paths to cross. You know, coming where I come from in my background, and you coming from where you come in your background, to have our worlds collide by our two children meeting on the other part of the country, the other part of the globe, and them getting to know each other, and then here we are. It's amazing what Heavenly Father can do when He wants to bring forth His purpose, and He's done it with the Constitution. He's done it with the gospel, and I'm glad and grateful for the opportunity to be blessed to be a part of it. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I've enjoyed getting to know you more and seeing your wonderful, beautiful artwork. It's been wonderful, and I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was really, truly God helping us. He's in the details of the details. I love that both of our children are on here. I hear them commenting. That is too cool. I love that. And it's really, we, so much gratitude for God and the opportunity to meet in your time. Thank you. Thank you everyone too for your beautiful comments and being with us today, taking the time, really taking the time to learn of him and be with Jesus and learn about his love and his law and his constitution here. So thank you, everyone. We'll
Thank
be
you.
back
You have
next
a great day.
Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Carpe Diem. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.